It has often been said that bees are responsible for 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat. Each year, American farmers and growers continue to feed more people using less land. They produce an abundance of food that is nutritious and safe. Honeybees are very much a part of this modern agricultural success story. It's estimated that there are about 2.4 million colonies in the U.S. today, 2/3 of which travel the country each year pollinating crops and producing honey and beeswax. More than 1 million colonies are used each year in California just to pollinate the state's almond crop. The important thing that bees do is pollinate. Pollination is needed for plants to reproduce, and so many plants depend on bees or other insects as pollinators. When a bee collects nectar and pollen from the flower of a plant, some pollen from the stamens, the male reproductive organ of the flower, sticks to the hairs on the bee's body. When the bee visits the next flower, some of this pollen is rubbed off onto the stigma or tip of the pistil, the female reproductive organ of the flower. When this happens, fertilization is possible, and a fruit carrying a seed can develop. Bees make excellent pollinators because most of their life is spent collecting pollen, a source of protein that they feed to their developing offspring. When a bee lands on a flower, the hairs all over the bee's body attract pollen grains through electrostatic forces. Stiff hairs on their legs enable them to groom the pollen into specialized brushes or pockets on their legs or body, and then carry it back to their nest. Individual bees tend to focus on one kind of flower at a time, which means it is more likely that pollen from one flower will be transferred to another flower of the same species by a bee. Many plants require this kind of pollen distribution known as cross-pollination. Without the honeybee's pollination work, the quantity and quality of crops would be reduced and some would not yield at all. According to a 2000 Cornell University study, the increased yield and quality of agricultural crops as a result of honeybee pollination is valued at more than $14.6 billion per year. And although other insects can pollinate plants, honeybees are premier pollinators because they are available throughout the growing season and pollinate a wide range of crops. Many of the foods and crops we rely on need, or at least benefit from bee pollination. Some of them crops include alfalfa, almonds, apples, beans, cabbage, cauliflower, cherries, clover, cranberries, cucumbers, onions, plums, pears, squash, strawberries, and many more. Flowers that are visited more often by bees will produce larger and more uniform fruit than those visited less often. This beneficial effect of pollination is almost obvious in tree fruit. If a fruit tree's flowers are not sufficiently pollinated, its fruit can be deformed.